hard to take it.
Yeah, especially you know it's the truth.
Yeah. Not a group like this in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Commissioner Watson will be the other one that's not going to be here, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready? You guys ready? Type it in the last transaction on your E-Trade account and then you're good. Huh?
Yep.
Sell.
Yeah, sell it all. Actually, we finally turned it over to somebody else. Somebody that we have to really pay now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Takes
it's like I'm paying for everything.
Takes the emotion out of it.
Well, just, I can't do anything.
Crashed into
One
the
time.
tower. Queens are all gone.
Yeah, my wife hasn't even given me visibility to it lately, so it's, my blood pressure is way down. I just don't know what's going on. Just know it's going down.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Chairman Thomas. I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 1st, 2022 North Ogden City Planning Commission meeting. We'll begin our meeting with an invocation or a thought by Commissioner Barker, followed which will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Barker.
The planning commission, we are grateful for this opportunity to be able to be here and be able to serve North Ogden. For those who have taken time out of their daily schedules of coming to attend to be participating in these meetings, and anybody might be on Zoom, and ask them help us remember that who we serve and what we're here for, and the purpose of these meetings. That we may be open to those things going on around us, and that thing that we need to do that we serve everybody, so say Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll make note that Commissioners Watson and Mason are excused tonight. Item number 2, meeting minutes consideration and action to approve the April 20th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there any corrections or notes?
I'll make the motion we approve the April 20th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minute.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our opening meeting statement. Since we have public here tonight, we'll read the in-meeting statement. Before each agenda item begins, city staff will give a report. After the staff report, the item will be opened for other speakers. The applicant will speak first and be allowed up to 10 minutes. Following the applicant, any other interested person will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. The applicant has final rebuttal time of up to 5 minutes. Any materials that are displayed or referred, e.g. pictures or written materials, are part of the record and must be left with the commission. Speakers are required to have signed in at the door and will state their name and address before beginning their remarks. If you agree with the previous speaker, then state your agreement to avoid repetitious remarks. Speakers shall address the commission from the podium or microphone and shall address all comments to the planning commission. And please silence your phones. All right, do we have any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest? Okay, we will open up for public comments at this time. This is for public comments that are for items that are not on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing or item number 6, you will have time to speak on those items. So if there's any public who'd like to address us, again, for something not on the agenda, please do so at this time. Do we have anybody online?
No attendees.
No attendees. Look at that. Now we can really get down to business. All right. Tonight we only have legislative items, which are items that are the discretion of the city council that are given recommendations from the planning commission. Item number 6 is an annexation 2022-01, discussions, consideration, and or recommendation on a legislative application to annex property at approximately 3500 North, 100 West, and zone the property RE20. Presenter will be Scott Hess, our planning director. Scott.
Thank you, and John Call's been excused tonight, so presenting from over here. We have an annexation application. This is a public hearing. Is this listed as a public hearing?
It's not listed as a public hearing, but
so this will be a public hearing at city council. This goes through 2 processes. Annexations are certified at the city council level to be accepted, and then they're at that point reviewed by multiple departments and kicked back to planning commission for its own unique review that looks at general plan and applying a land use zone to it. As part of the annexation process, that is then forwarded as a recommendation from the planning commission back to the city council, along with all other staff comments, and reviewed at once in the legislative decision-making by the council for acceptance of that application. I will read the legislative decision. When the city is considering a legislative matter, the planning commission is acting as a recommending body to the city council. The city has wide discretion in taking legislative action. Examples of legislative actions are general plan, zoning map, and land use text amendments. Legislative actions require that the planning commission give a recommendation to the city council. Typically, the criteria for making a decision related to a legislative matter requires compatibility with the general plan and existing codes. The applicant has 9.93 acres of property located approximately 3500 North, 100 West. Has applied to annex this. This is adjacent to the Stone Ridge subdivision, and the applicant is requesting the rural RE20 zone, so rural residential RE20 zone. Adjacent properties are zoned RE20 to the north within Pleasant View City, R110 to the east, agricultural A1 to the south, which is Weber County, and residential R110 to the west. So this property is unique. I'm going to actually scroll down to the map and talk a little bit about it, as it was not previously in North Ogden City's annexation declaration boundary. So our city boundaries, as we saw them in the future, went to 175 on the east, and then north up to the canal property, leaving this triangle here owned by the applicants in Pleasant View City. Pleasant View City determined that they were not able to provide culinary, water, and sewer and storm services to this property, and requested from North Ogden City, or asked North Ogden City whether or not we could provide services, to which our Public Works Department responded yes through the certification of the annexation process. So it's a bit of a unique review because we don't have an underlying general plan recommendation to provide you. So staff reviewed this against what surrounds it, essentially, which is this yellow area in the general plan being low intensity, single family residential. The application itself is supported by a subdivision that would go through its own process through planning commission, because there is a small amount of road dedication. Sorry. So then you can see what it looks like. So the road currently comes up and stops. There is a fire access that continues and into Pleasant View, making a loop on this road connection. There would be some improvements required here. It's so far been applied for as the subdivision as 2 lots and 1 shared open space lot. So low impact, single family development, 2 acres or larger to meet, well, it's larger than half-acre lots, which is the RE20 underlying zone. So staff is supportive on the application and of the zoning being applied to it. And the only condition that staff applies to this is that the property go through the full legal subdivision process and improvements be installed, completed or escrowed for prior to any building permits being issued, just like any other traditional subdivided property. With that, I'll leave it for the planning commission if you have any questions.
So this map, where is the frontage, the street frontage?
Yeah, the frontage for each lot, this line here coming up is roadway. And if you were to zoom out just a little bit, I'll scroll up and show you what it looks like here. Frog Rock is located about here. Just to orient you in the city, you come down 175 east. This is, let me get it wrong, 3475. That road will continue up through the property, providing street frontage to both of these 2 lots.
And there's adequate room
That-
for street frontage on both of those lots?
So that'll be reviewed as part of the subdivision process. So
Looks
as
tight.
it does, those are large parcels.
Okay.
It's longer than you would think, actually.
From perspective.
Yep. And we have the applicants here who can help address that on the length of the individual frontages.
I kind of see in relation to the other lots.
Yeah,
So
one
it
is,
looks like they're just bigger lots.
yeah, one has plenty of frontage. The other one's a little bit narrow. It's like 47 feet, so they may need to work on how the split on that frontage works. But the annexation gives them it gives them approval of the city that yes, we will provide them with municipal services and a zoning designation. It still does require that a full subdivision comes through, so this isn't approval of the subdivision. And then the planning commission will have an opportunity to weigh in on that as there is road dedication.
What is A1 for Weaver County?
It's similar to RE20, but it's 1 acre zoning, but it allows animal keeping.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Scott? We'd invite the applicant up if they'd like to address us, if there's anything that needs to be added.
Rick Skadden, 118 East Longview Drive. This will be one of those lots is mine. I'll be building my personal home there. Trying to create some space around us where maybe others' opportunities don't come and conflict, but we're excited to be there. We're happy to annex into North Ogden as we've enjoyed living here for about 8 years now. As far as the frontages, I'll have to check, but I thought that we looked up RE20 and those lots were drawn to meet those, but we'll adjust accordingly.
And we'll confirm that.
Yeah, yes. We hope to get started right away and work through the processes with the city, and happy birthday, by the way.
I don't resemble that.
Happy to answer any questions. Any thoughts?
Any questions for the applicant? Seems pretty
So
straightforward.
Yeah.
it's 2 lots and then the common area behind.
Yes, and let me explain. Brett Johnson is with us tonight. Brett owns, what's your address?
Maybe pull that map up, Scott.
I'm Brett Johnston. My address is 3275 North, 96 East. And so my current property butts up to that crosses the canal. And so the common space is basically a shared space along that canal. It's there now.
With three of us.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So George, Evans, Brett, and myself will share in that common area.
There's 3475, one lot, two lot in the common area.
And Brett currently owns the 2 acres just on right where your arrow's at.
And with the RE20, it'd allow you to put horses on it or something like that if you ever wanted to. or
If we
whatever.
ever wanted to.
Yeah.
They can graze the grass up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of grass on
Yeah.
that mountainside.
One strand every 10 feet or so.
Yeah.
I don't even know if a goat could stay alive.
I love the rock point that's there, and we're gonna keep
It's got some
that.
really nice furniture up there.
Yeah,
No, I
No,
don't.
yeah.
It was cleaned up.
like an old couch,
3 of
you
them.
know. Oh,
Three of them. They went away today,
a
actually.
lot of stains on it.
Some artwork.
We're going to clean the artwork off the rock, and we are going to fence the whole project with 6-foot black chain link fence, so.
That's great.
Doesn't really want to keep anybody out other than maybe the walking path. There, a lot of people use that path
Mhm,
a lot,
I
so
do.
it'll be secured that way, and we look forward to it.
So there is sense for the North Ogden Junior Posse used to practice.
On that piece. Yeah, we're both former farm kids, but our farm days are behind us, I believe. So,
Yeah.
Okay, any other
Thank you for sharing that.
questions for the applicant? Thank you. All right, this time we'd open up for any public comment on this item. If you'd like to, please step up to the mic and address us.
And just a note on the public comment piece, state code does require a public comment period for annexations, but it's done at the city council level since Susan Nance, our state recorder, certifies and then finalizes all of the annexation processes. They sit out there for a number of days after certification before they can move forward. So this will have met those requirements prior to being approved.
Okay,
No hands on that.
No, there's no still limited.
all right. Well, since there's no more public comment, go to commissioners for discussion and a recommendation. There any discussion?
This over looked like the water had to do a transition between different properties, so one R20, R10 and stuff. It looks like it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it'd be beautiful too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just put a motion that, a motion for a positive recommendation to city council for the annexation of the property and apply the RE20 zone with the following condition that the property must be legally subdivided, improved, or escrowed for improvements prior to issuance of any building permits.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes,
Commissioner Nancarrow,
yes.
and I vote yes. All right, that recommendation will move on to the city council. Item number 7, zone map amendment 2022-1. This is a public hearing. It's consideration and recommendation on a legislative application to rezone property for land located at approximately 2067 North Washington Boulevard from community commercial to multifamily residential R4. Presenter will be Brandon Bell, our associate planner. Brandon?
Thank you, Chair. So this is a legislative item. Legislative items, the commission does have wide discretion, and the commission is acting as a recommending body to the city council on legislative matters. So the applicant is requesting a zone change for property that's located at approximately 2067 North Washington Boulevard from a newly renamed zone that's entitled Community Commercial. The name of that zone was adjusted from C2 to Community Commercial as part of our code reorganization. And so the request is to transfer from that zone to multifamily residential, and which is the R4 zone. The applicant has applied to have the parcel rezoned and The parcel that's being requested is currently shown on county records as a separate parcel, but it only went through a meet and bound subdivision of the county, was not approved by the city. And so that parcel needs to be legally approved as a separate parcel by the city. And so I'll address that in a little more detail. A companion subdivision application needs to be filed for the rezoned parcel to be legal. And this, the rezone and the exact boundaries of the property being rezoned need to be subject to the future subdivision approval. The exact size of that parcel in the legal subdivision that needs to occur will be determined by the applicable site development standards of the R4 zone as part of site plan review and approval. So a little bit more concretely, there are open space requirements like of X percentage for the R4 zone, and staff just hasn't gone through that yet because we haven't processed that application. And so if it comes in under the percentage that's required, then the parcel would need to expand a little bit and therefore the zone boundaries would need to change as well, because zone boundaries are supposed to occur at the edges of a parcel. And so what staff is saying is that this should be subject to a legally approved subdivision and the final boundaries of that resulting parcel. So I will summarize that one more time at the end. If the commission decides to approve it, then our recommendation would be that you, or excuse me, to recommend approval, that staff's recommendation is that you approve it subject to the final boundaries of legally approved subdivision. So if that were to occur, then the rezone and the subdivision will again be subject to site plan approval of the proposed townhomes. The proposed ordinance is currently written also reflects these requirements. They're all addressed in the ordinance, the rezone ordinance, that it would have to be tied to the subdivision and site plan approval, et cetera. So I'm going to go through the general guidelines from the general plan that serve as guidelines to inform decisions with regards to rezones. The first guideline is that a definite edge should be established between the types of uses to protect the integrity of each use, except where the mixing of uses is recommended in the general plan. Staff comment on this is that the proposed use does not alter the nature of the edge that already exists between different uses, but it does adjust its location. The proposed rezone would actually change the zoning district for the boundary to a use that is more similar or the same to all zones that the property is surrounded by. The zoning district for the property is currently, and in detail, what that's saying is it'd be changing from a commercial zone to a residential zone. There is some single family residential zone to the west, but we would put it in the category of residential generally if this were rezoned. The zoning district for the property is currently community commercial. It states in the staff report, the written staff report C2, but those are effectively the same zone with the reorganization that's occurred. And the property is bordered by R4 zoning on two sides, which is the north and the south, R18 to the west, and the community commercial to the east. This and that community commercial would be across the street, across Washington Boulevard. So there's an arterial in the way between them. The rezone, if approved, would be a change to a more similar zoning as that which is on bordering properties. The next guideline is that zoning should reflect the existing use of the property to the greatest extent possible, unless the area is in transition or is in conflict with the general plan. The written comment states that there was a rezone a few years ago on this. That was my memory, and I looked through the records. I couldn't verify that was the case for sure, but I do believe it's fair to say that the area is in transition with the recent development of the already existing townhomes that are on an adjoining parcel. It's the Majestic View townhomes. And so staff believes it's accurate to say that the area is in transition. Next guideline states that where possible, properties which face each other across a local street should be the same or a similar zone. Collector and arterial roads may be sufficient buffers to warrant different zones. This rezone would actually not affect a property which faces a street directly. Additionally, the street by which the property is accessed is an arterial street. And so it doesn't, the property doesn't border a street, so it's not the most applicable guideline, but it is an arterial street that's the closest to it, at least to the east. Then the next statement is, the next guideline is that zoning boundaries should not cut across individual lots or developments, i.e. placing the lot in two separate zones. Illogical boundaries should be redrawn to follow property or established geographical lines. Staff comment on this guideline is that the proposed zone change would not cut across individual lots once the rezone is applied to the final boundaries of a legal subdivision for the parcel. The rezone needs to be subject to the final boundaries of that subdivision, and the boundaries of that subdivision need to be subject to the requirements of the approved site plan and the R4 zone, like open space and other requirements for that zone. So it's kind of like a nesting doll situation, is the best way to describe it. The next guidelines are for residential specifically. The comment states guideline states avoid isolating neighborhoods. Staff comment on this is that the proposed zone change is the same use as the townhomes immediately to the south, and if approved will be an extension of that existing townhome development, and the development will not isolate any existing neighborhoods. The next guideline is require excellence in design. Staff comment is that the townhomes in the prior phase of this development that would potentially be expanded are of high quality in their design. And the final guideline is that to consider development agreements to assure higher quality development. Staff comment on this guideline is that no development agreement is proposed or considered to be necessary. The conformance, with regards to conformance with the general plan, staff believes that the proposed rezone conforms to the North Ogden City general plan. The general plan calls for this property to be developed as part of the Southtown mixed use area and land use category. So we have in our general plan land use categories. Those are a little bit more, well, significantly more general in nature than our actual zoning districts. And most of them have a definition. In the case of the Southtown, there's no definition provided for it, but there is language that's very similar to what would be provided in a definition in a later section of the general plan that addresses the Southtown area. In the goals for that Southtown area, those goals specify that that area in the Southtown areas is intended to provide a support function to the downtown. And one of the goals specified for the area is to promote mixed-use housing concepts that add quality developments to the area and provide more rooftops to support business. With that statement regarding being a goal for the Southtown mixed-use area, the R4 zone is viewed by staff to be consistent with these goals for the area in the general plan. So there are a couple of considerations that staff would recommend that the commission consider. The first is the proposal consistent with the general plan, and the second is how does the proposal relate to the zoning and land use policy guidelines. Staff recommends that the planning commission conduct a public hearing and receive public comment, consider the general plan rezoning guidelines, and make a recommendation to the city council. Staff also recommends that the planning commission can find that this application is consistent with the general plan and recommend approval of the rezone from community commercial to the multifamily residential R4 zone. And as a final comment, staff would suggest that if you do find that this, if you do decide that the commission recommends this to be rezoned to the R4 zone, that this commission include in their motion that it be subject to the final boundaries of a legally approved subdivision. And yeah, I think that covers it. Are there any questions that you have for me? And well, real quick, I'll just point out that the approximate boundaries of the proposed property to be rezoned is shown in the red rectangle on the top of that map on the screen. So are there any questions that the commission has for me that I can answer for you?
I assume that 325 east is going to continue on through that property.
It will continue on it with a hammerhead at the south or the north end.
Okay.
So it ends there?
Currently.
Yes.
Because I thought when the townhomes before were approved, they had, I can't remember if it was the city that had entered an agreement with UDOT or the developer that there was to be a road connection to Washington further north and that connection be eliminated.
Yeah, so this is, well,
So is that,
That, I think that would be, that issue would be addressed at the time of site plan. So we can research that and see how that applies to this, but it wouldn't, like, they wouldn't be able to put in the hammerhead and not continue it north if that agreement is in place unless that was determined not to be applicable on site plan. So
okay,
it shouldn't be affected by the rezone.
and there's a provided potential stub to the south that would connect through the cannery, potentially if that were to ever actually happen. And then the hammerhead is designed in such a way that it could be transitioned in the future to a loop and connecting road if it were to go out. So it's a little bit to UDOT's determination on that agreement, as well as a fire marshal review of the length of that access and the number of structures on the single point in and out.
yeah,
Which Ryan Barker, fire marshal, has reviewed this hammerhead and initially said that functions for the fire department. But you're right, and that's another one of those like separate issues. You've got the rezone, but the rezone entitles anything that community commercial underlying then would approve, not rezoning, entitling it to just specifically this. So there's
Yeah.
a subdivision to come should a rezone.
that'll be at the subdivision stage.
So just
Those
hold on
issues.
to it when they come forward with their subdivision. Okay.
Any other questions? Would the applicant like to address this? Yeah, we'll have them. Yeah. It's on the public, here's this.
Pat Burns, 1407 North Mountain Road. It's good to be home, it feels like. I'm in planning commission meetings, feels like every 3 or 4 days, and I don't get to be here very often, so it's good to be here.
See you.
Brandon did a great job explaining. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd love to answer anything I could. Probably the first thing I would address would be, Brandon's exactly right. I kind of guessed how much room we would need for open space, but I can adjust that lot, because I own both parcels, so I can adjust the lot line to for whatever open space is needed on either side. So we can definitely make that accommodation for whatever's needed for the open space.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I just have the road thing, that's all I was concerned about.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you,
Simple
guys.
enough. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. This is on map amendment 2022-1. This is the public hearing to make a recommendation to rezone the property located at 2067 North Washington Boulevard from commercial CC to multifamily residential R4. Public hearing is now open. If you'd like to address us, please step up to the mic and state your name and address. And all these people here, nobody wants to say anything.
There's still no attendees online.
Okay. That's not used to having nobody objecting.
My name is Paul Farr. I live at 2097 North, which is one lot north of this parcel. I'm curious if I heard correctly, there's no commercial zoning on the west side of Washington, it's on the east side. So what I heard.
I think that, I mean, the parcel, is currently commercial, so the piece between this and Washington would remain commercial, right?
That's correct.
I think that's where
Stated that,
The
yeah.
food,
So is it commercial all the way going north on the west side?
currently.
Yeah.
I thought that you were in that still.
the zoning map is. It's in this.
So the current zoning on the east side of Washington Boulevard from.
The west side.
Yeah, so sorry, west side, you have the Cannery Building and its associated buildings to the west. Majestic Views is now residential R4. This parcel that has had the food bank operating on it, the entire length of it is commercial 2. And then the remaining parcels all the way up to the power substation are residential R4. So to include your property. So you are here, and then, I'm sorry, let me zoom out.
And then you're that piece in the county too.
Yeah, and then the parcels.
Yeah,
that
it
are-
used to all be in the county. I don't know how you guys got me.
Now
Figure that
you must have been sleeping one
I
day.
was, yes.
So
I like that.
No.
everything to the north now is residential R4. The application tonight is the rear half of this property to be residential R4, the hammerhead located kind of right here at the northern edge of that property.
Okay, so I own 2 parcels that split 2100 north.
Let me go to. I can get your the property ownership on in just a second. I can't because I need to download the new Flash player, so.
So hit-
I'll see if I can get this to come up.
Mr. Farr is the parcel that's labeled Weaver County and then directly between there and Washington and just south of that. So almost straight in line with 2100 north.
So you know where the infamous duplex is?
Is that what that is? I thought that was a storage unit for whoever wanted to store something there.
Yeah, so
So you're.
they're on my north border.
Yeah, so here's Majestic Views. This
Mhm.
whole parcel here is all residential R4 to include this little home, this piece and this piece owned by Link Construction is the commercial C2 with the application being on this north half. Then there's a property owner between you and Pat Burns, and then here's your piece, Paul,
Right.
there, and the unincorporated county component, that duplex being right here on the bounds, and then there's box storage, and this little guy here are commercial C2. So if you jump back to the zone.
One clarification, I believe I inaccurately stated that the property on the east side of Washington Boulevard was community commercial or C2, which actually is R4.
That has come up with me in the past that we do need to make an amendment on that. That corner building has always been commercial there. That 2120, that's where the real estate office is and a mortgage and title company.
That one.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, they've been included in the R4, which is, I mean, I thought it went to commercial clear back when it was built as a racquetball club. But so we just probably need to check that or just make that map correction and get that back into commercial zone.
So my question is, why you just rezone the whole thing? All the way through.
Good.
Well, the applicant has only requested the back half be rezoned to R4. So they want to retain commercial use of the front, as far as I understand, but that's a excellent
I
question.
thought you said it was R4. I didn't think.
No, it's going to R4
Yeah, it's going to.
from
R4.
Yeah,
commercial.
there's it, but we don't have commercial on the north side.
No, you're in R4 now.
Yes, you're.
You know, if that were rezoned, maybe Bound would get on board and convert that duplex into a townhouse.
The store.
Bounds is already zoned R4, so they
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
If you,
But they won't. And it's no good see, those lots are no good as commercial property because they're deep. Nobody wants to build back off the road. So the commercial value is nil in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't see any value there. And that would clean up the whole area.
Well, yeah, as it stands currently with the R4, I believe is R4 8 units to the acre.
It's a little more,
Is
it's by our new zoning code, it's up to 15, but practically speaking, it's about 12 and a half. You have to have a really perfectly square, flat piece of property that's unobstructed to get much more than about 12 and a half with our setbacks and open space requirement.
Well, it's just something that you might consider. Yeah, I'm not a developer and it doesn't really matter. I just thought you'd kill two birds with one stone. And if you need access to Washington, they could come right up to 2100 in a butt across the street from that with my property. So, you guys are the powers to be. I don't know anything about this. I'm just.
Remember, this is legislative, so all the power goes to the next meeting.
So I would not object to that, and if we can encourage Mr. Brown to do something with these duplex, that'd be wonderful.
Yes. It will.
Thank you for coming and sharing that. That's very thoughtful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other public?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Is that Alan who seconded?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing is closed. Planning Commission discussion and or recommendation. Again, it seems like any of the things I guess we had questions with really more relative to a subdivision application and not a rezone. This does kind of fill in R4 between both sides, so it seems pretty straightforward,
Yeah, it
in
does.
my opinion.
Do we want to address the comment from the public at all in our public hearing of, I mean, obviously this isn't the step to do that. And I think there was some loose language as far as recommending what that process would be, but as far as this is a public hearing, do we want to discuss that at all?
I mean, I guess really for us, it's not a condition for this piece that we're
It's not.
passing recommendations. We can
Yeah.
talk about it after, but maybe not part of this motion, but
Sounds good.
the ground is R4 now, so they could put multiple units on that piece.
Yeah.
So.
Would you entertain a motion at this time?
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion that we recommend to the city council that this property be rezoned from community commercial zone to the multifamily residential R4 zone. And also subject to the final boundaries of the legally approved subdivision. Did I get that right, Mr. Bell?
Yes.
I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
That was
Commissioner Webb,
Webb Johnson.
Commissioner Webb, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Lunt,
Yes.
Commissioner Nancaro,
Yes.
Commissioner Barker?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That'll move on to city council. And I would just recommend, since I was here when we did that townhouse subdivision to the south of you, is you do a subdivision application, just, get the city to dig into, because I don't know what city was here back when we did that, but I don't know if it's the city's agreement we have, because that road that comes into those townhomes is so close to 2000 North. It was a requirement from UDOT that road be eliminated in the future. And there was actually supposed to be escrow money set aside to tear that out. So a road is supposed to tie into 2100 or some other connection. So through that process, there may be some limitations the city has to make sure that that's the direction that this road is moving. So, or at least make sure you plan that it can connect and keep going north. Because I think it was a synopsis of everybody that they're not going to tear the cannery down and put a road through it. So it needs to really get out north. Just suggestions. So when we come back, that'll be an item of discussion. So at least address it so we know. Staff will look it up, I'm sure, but.
Discussion about that road.
Yeah, I mean, it went in and back a few different times because of the UDOT stuff, because it's literally, that road is literally like, I can't remember, 200 feet or something from the light.
Yeah.
So. A question I do have is, are they still doing the food bank there then, on the ground?
for now, I've been working with him for a year and a half and he's not helping me. Let's put it that way.
How long have you owned the property?
A year and a half.
Oh, so are you like helping, you've been working with him like, hey, let's figure out somewhere else to do that, or?
All of the above. I brought him road base, I helped with the sidewalk, I was trying to help get some stuff conformed, he had tons of money that was coming in, and supposed to help do it correctly, and we had other spaces to go, so.
Yeah, it's
I don't know,
just a
hard,
traffic.
and I want to support the food bank, and I've worked hard and spent a lot of time and money to help work it along. Very, I want it to succeed, I want something to happen, it's just not happening.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what UDOT has done in the city, but I feel like everybody's kind of turned a little bit of a blind eye because of what it is. But that's only gonna happen until somebody gets hit right there.
Yep.
You know, so,
It's a really valuable use and a really, it's not in the right location. You know,
Yeah.
it's clearly a need. I mean, if you go over there on a Friday, food giveaway day, it's busy, it's certainly packed, but it's also impacting majestic views and.
I would say that's our issue, is there's probably 30+ cars that completely block our, and we're starting to enforce that this week. Because they've been using at least 30 cars, they go up and down all of our streets.
yeah, I thought UDOT or somebody came out and, you know, because now they can't line up there in their cars, they have to get out. And I thought that was stemmed from UDOT because the traffic issue it caused, but still it's.
Problem is we're having all the residents, I mean, they're parking all where they can't get back out.
Yeah.
You know, they're lining up all the streets, every parking that we did the visitor parking for, they're all gone.
If I can say something.
Perfect, you'll know about it, right?
So that is actually something that.
And tell us who you are.
See, you do listen to us out there in the floor here, huh? Waiting for us to yell at each other. Step
So
in.
we actually have been enforcing that a lot more as of recently, just because there has been some incidents where there's a lot of people calls to park on the street. Because they think it's a shoulder, but it's actually a right-hand turn lane. So we've been letting everyone know that parks in that area that they no longer can, nor can they take up all the parking spaces of the townhomes. So we're telling them to either park farther, you know, south down Washington, or, you know, where the ice cream is, somewhere where there's a lot more open space so that there's no hazard there.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
That's another enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like such a good thing for people that need it. You hate to, but at the same time, you don't want something bad to happen. There's a right place for everything.
How are you gonna rush to leave after this piece? Because I think that should be when we have discussion at the end. And if there's information about locations or things like that, I think that'd be valuable to gather. So.
Yeah, since we're done.
Yeah.
We open up for public comments. So if anybody would like to make comments again, items they wanted to make on an item and now they get bravery to do it, go ahead. It won't change what we voted, but, or if it's something else.
Well, I'd stand up and say something about Rick Skadden and putting multifamily on his property, but it's not funny because he's not here.
All right, well, remarks from planning commissioners?
Just general remarks.
Yeah, general remarks.
Yeah, I think, if we can ask a question of the public
Yeah.
here for that. As you worked for the last year and a half to find locations and things like that, have you found, in your opinion of one person, a location that would be positive, or multiple locations that would be positive for something like that in the community? Obviously, it's a needed service. It comes with other problems. Clearly, there's some complaints tonight about some of the current problems, and it'd be nice to get that solved sooner rather than later.
So 2 locations that I think if you're going to come up with this,
Sure, yeah.
that I think would be really good. And I talked with Mike about this, Mike Larson, was the BBO.
Yeah.
It's a perfect location for it. I know he was working with EK Bailey, I believe, on getting a spot in the BBO, because he had one of the units he had in there. The other spot I've actually talked with John Paul quite a bit about was the old Public Works in North Ogden. And he said he'd be willing to possibly do something, but it wouldn't be able to run a full place there. It just wouldn't, we talked about multiple ideas and it just wouldn't quite work. It wouldn't be the best location for it and long-term and the amount of money and time it would take to get it. BDO, in my opinion, is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what is,
Parking's out.
yeah, everything.
So are they a 1 day, like canned out food 1 day and then they collect it the rest of the week or what?
So
Or does it just happen to be that on Fridays it's busy day or whatever?
that kind of changes, and Red would actually know a little more than I do for sure. Just from what I had seen and talked with Mike about was they do the giveaway. They try to do it one day out of the week, and then they're open for people to come in and you get, it's not like a voucher, but you state your name and you there's like an application type of thing you do. And so they come in 3 days a week, is that right? Or
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3 or 4, and then they do the big giveaways. It also depends on how much food he has come in. So when he gets a call from Associated or whoever has the food, and then they get, hey, we just have a truckload of this, he only has so much space over there. And what sucks too over there is the refrigeration units. They're loud. They cause problems with the neighbors. We've gotten several complaints from the neighbors because the refrigeration units are loud. He only has so much space, and so when he gets so much food, he has to do those giveaways to create the space. But like I said, I mean, my hat is off to Mike. I mean, he's doing something that is gutsy and hard and
important.
yeah, important, but it's, for me, I've worked as hard as I can, and it's got to where it's costing me a lot a month to keep that place as it is. And so I'd want to work something out with him and get it, perfect question, Johnson. The best place for me, in my opinion, is the BDO. It's made for that. It's made for that type of use, that traffic, everything. There's trucks coming in.
Yep.
Everything. It'd be a great location. So I haven't talked to Mike in the past week and a half about it, but he was trying to find a place in the BDO. That was the last year. We talked about that. So.
Sounds like Bailey's have a place that at least there was some discussion there or something.
There was, yeah, and as far as, that was what I had heard from Mike. I hadn't talked to Bailey's at all about it or anything. I don't know anything else above what he had said. So we are kind of diving into it this week because got to make a decision on what, I've got a few complaints. It's just the neighbors out there, they're not
Can't
very
blame them.
happy with it.
Well, it's taking police resources to enforce it and reduce risk. So it's a worthy planning discussion.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, John was aggressive. I mean, we've talked for hours about it, trying to make, it's hard. It's really hard to put something like that somewhere. So,
Yeah.
and honestly, I do applaud the city for kind of blind eyeing it to solve, especially through COVID. I mean, hey, if anything else, it was awesome through COVID and can continue to be great. I just don't know.
But we all saw the lines and it reminded us what the need is out there. There's a real need. Then we saw those lines and we're like, holy cow.
And those leads aren't going away.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other remarks, commissioners? Scott, anything from you?
Yeah, just one,
Oh,
Brandon.
hold on. Finally got brave enough.
Yeah. Okay. I live next door to Mike,
Okay,
okay? I go over daily and I help him with the food bank over there. There's definitely a need for the community to be helped. I've been over there for over 2 years helping them. And I'm retired. My wife had an MS, she's in a wheelchair, so I took an early retirement to be a caregiver. I can go next door and work, come home and check on her so I can work both sides of the fence, okay? I live next door to them. I have the reapers and everything right there next to me, and I hear them, and they're not that bad. When you work for the public, you can't please everybody. There's gonna be a few, okay? But like I say, the food bank, I've watched the people coming in there and they're mostly getting to be senior citizens now. People that are on fixed incomes. Okay, and what's happening is fuel's going up, food's going up, fixed incomes are still the same. And there's a lot of people that are out there hurting. What Mike's doing is he's supporting the community and he's working out of his own pocket. He doesn't have any funding help because they have rules and regulations. They want his contacts and stuff, and he's not going to give it up. They want him to put packages together with certain things that people don't want. And most of it winds up in the garbage. So it's kind of like a little 7-Eleven. He takes people through there, they shop them, they let them get stuff for lunches, breakfasts, dinners, and stuff that they get is stuff that they can utilize. Okay, our food that comes in there, we go to Associated. Okay, once a week, they give us like 9 or 10 pallets of food that comes in. Okay, and we've lost our sponsor on diesel fuel. And with all those reefers there, it's costing so much money. That's the reason why he's doing the Friday giveaways. Rather than store it, what he's doing now is it comes to us and we put it out there for the community to take. So, you know, and like I say, he's working out of his own pocket, you know, rather than get the funding and abide by the rules that they want. He's doing it on his own, and he deals with other food banks. He trades with the LDS church. He deals with the community people. We deal with Ricky Bobby's over 24th Street, and they'll trade stuff. Some people will come and they'll need diapers, and you know, he's got other people that deal with the homeless, and he gives them like deodorants and toothpaste and toothbrushes and things that the community needs. So he's definitely an asset in the community, you know. And I live next door to him, and I've been there since 1975. I've seen this North Ogden go through a lot of changes. When I first moved out here, it was a 2-lane road. We didn't even have the turning lane in the middle. Okay, I've lost probably 30, 40 feet of my front yard when they widened Washington Boulevard. Okay, we're on a fixed income. I have no desire to move. I have no desire to sell or turn loose anything. So I'm right in the middle of all of this. So I don't know. You can only go to the fence. So that's to be considered. And I have a lot of concerns about things like property taxes. You guys rezone this here. Is it going to change our property taxes? Because I'm dealing with a fixed income. Okay. The property I have, I'm able to put in a little garden. I've got chickens and I put livestock in the backyard. Is that all going to change? There's a lot of things that, you know, are going through my mind.
Yeah, and your property wasn't rezoned, just to be clear, and so nothing should change for you. It's just
Okay.
that property itself. So yours, whatever it was last year for tax assessment, should be no change as far as from a use standpoint. Sure, taxes may increase because your valuation might go up.
You guys are talking about, you know, having a access on a road there. The power company has a 30-foot easement. It goes through that back by those power lines. Yeah. You know, and I've got into it with them because they come through there to service stuff and they went through the middle of my property and I just planted grass out there and I had words with them. They were told not to trespass and they did. And, you know, it's like the system, you know, you try to work with people and you wind up on the short end of the stick. So, you know, like I say, I've been helping Mike over there with that food bank for 2.5 years, and it's something this community needs. You know, you turn on the news and they say it's getting better. And you know what? I can see from the people that are over there, it's not. And there's people that are forgotten and shuffled under the rug that need help. So there's a lot of things to consider. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your help over
All
there.
right.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that.
Can I just say one thing? What I was gonna say is, I've got about 10 residents that live in there that I get calls for every week, and they've been calling on those coolers. You know, if it does happen that they have to stay there, I mean, maybe they can make them, or they run power out there, because when they're running those all day long, I mean, it's got to where I've got a decibel reader, because I got people screaming and yelling at me every day.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll make note of that.
He's only running one or two of those.
I know, but the problem is I went out there because, you know, when we were building those, you know, I never even noticed it, to be honest. And but when you stand by there and I'm sitting there reading the desk, I called the police to find out the code. Excuse me, and everything. And we went and ran it out several times and it is over, you know, and so she's called, I know that end unit right there, she's called the police like more times than.
He moved that reaper. He moved it over to my side.
You done it, read it?
Yeah, it's
Since he
over.
moved that?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and the thing is that when it kicks on, that's when it's reading high. And there's a certain time limit that they, with the code, that they'll let it do, but yeah, it's bad.
It's all night, it's 24/7, so it's mostly obviously during the day, nobody's there or cares too much, but in the middle of the night, sounds like a motorhome's parked by your house.
They're just not tired.
Scott, you have anything for us?
Brandon brought in some books that were done by the Utah Land Use Institute. They're an update of Craig Call, prior land use ombudsman, on land use law in Utah. So if you're wondering about comprehensive land use law and regulation, here's literally the book on it. The first edition, I actually had in college, in a college class, the land use law class. And it's been on a reference, and this is an update to it. So as part of the grant from the state for doing trainings, they provide these free of charge to elected officials and planning commission members across the state. Excellent resource. If you have any questions, or if you have folks who have land use legal questions on what they can do on their private property rights, this has a lot of answers there. The only other note that I'll make is I'd let you know that the city council has approved our general plan map, so we'll, or maybe I did I hear that last time? At any rate.
It's been so long, I don't know.
City council has approved the general plan map, which means the planning commission will begin working on the text amendments to the general plan. And we have a requirement to update our moderate income housing plan again by October of this year, so you'll see that start to come around. And we need to do some trainings with you all, so everybody who attends the majority of meetings through the year, that counts as one of your 4 hours of training. So you're all very attentive, and so you'll get that hour, but we do have 3 additional hours of training. Brandon and I have talked about some training resources. We'll plan those over the summer. So if you're planning to miss any meetings in the summer, let us know on any of those July or August meetings. And otherwise, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.